All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to break down a really revolutionary model for tackling what's called learning poverty, especially in some of the world's most fragile communities. And it's an approach that looks way beyond the classroom and right into the home.
So let's just start with this one big, provocative question that kind of flips everything we think we know about education in crisis settings on its head. What if the reason a child can't learn has absolutely nothing to do with their own ability, but has everything to do with the world that surrounds them?
Okay, so look at this number, 82%. That's the rate of national learning poverty in a country like Uganda. And what that means is that 82% of children are actually in school, but they still can't read and understand a simple sentence by the time they're 10 years old. It is a massive crisis, kind of hidden in plain sight. And that really gets to the heart of the idea we're exploring today. The argument is that this isn't just some academic gap. It's a symptom of a much deeper, more systemic problem that starts long, long before a child ever even steps foot in a classroom. Okay, so let's really dive into this. To understand the solution, we first have to totally reframe our understanding of what the problem actually is. Right. So children don't learn in a vacuum, They bring the reality of their lives with them to school every single day. And in these post-conflict settings, that reality can be just overwhelming. We're talking about disrupted schooling, constant exposure to trauma, severe economic stress, maybe even violence at home. These aren't just small hurdles, they are enormous barriers to learning. So the crucial point here is this. Things like poor reading skills are really just the visible symptoms of much bigger, often invisible issues. The root causes are things like poverty, trauma, and a basic lack of safety right there in the household. And if you accept that, well, that understanding demands a fundamental shift in how we try to help. We have to stop trying to just fix the child, and instead, we've got to start trying to fix the system that surrounds them. This brings us to this incredibly powerful design principle, and it's championed by a refugee-led organization called HuSA, that's Humanitarian Services Action. Their entire model is built on this one single, unshakable belief. So instead of seeing a child's school registration as, the finish line, HuSA's model sees it as the very beginning. It's the entry point for a journey of transformation for the entire family. So how do they actually do this? Well, this idea is built into a really smart, structured, and phased framework they call the E4Rs. You can think of it like a roadmap to get a family from crisis all the way to stability. So the framework is this 5-phase journey. You've got entry, relief, recovery, resilience, and finally, reassurance. And each of these steps is very intentionally designed to move a family from being totally dependent on aid to becoming completely self-reliant. Now, what's really fascinating here is how each of these phases logically and intentionally builds on the one before it. It's not just a random list of services. Right at the beginning, during entry and relief, the goal is super simple: stabilization. HuSA provides completely free education and immediate support, and this removes those crushing survival pressures. The need for a kid to work, the constant stress of where the next meal is coming from, that just block a child's ability to even begin to learn. It's a critical stabilization bridge, not a permanent handout. So once that immediate pressure is off, once the family can finally take a breath, that's when the real intensive work of recovery can start. And it happens on 2 parallel tracks at the exact same time. And this is it's so brilliant. It perfectly illustrates the core of the whole model. While the child's learning capacity is being rebuilt through things like social-emotional learning and accelerated education, the household's earning capacity is built right alongside it through things like livelihood training and economic support. They rise together. Okay, so after about 3 years of that intensive recovery work, the family is ready for the final phases. First comes resilience, where they start applying their new economic and protective skills on their own. And that's followed by reassurance, where they prove they can sustain that progress, which paves the way for graduation. And listen, graduation here, it's not just about a kid finishing a grade. It's about the entire household demonstrating a totally new level of strength. It's when they have the economic capacity to pay for school fees themselves, the protective capacity to make sure their home is safe, and the child has the skills they need for the future. It is a true graduation from dependency. So what does this whole system-level change actually look like in practice, especially when you compare it to the way things have usually been done? Well, the difference is it's stark. It's night and day.
The traditional model gives free education, the child graduates, but the household often stays exactly the same, stuck in that same cycle of dependency. The HuSA model, though, uses that child's education as the spark to transform the entire family, creating economic ownership and kickstarting real generational change.
And this quote from HuSA, man, it just perfectly captures that shift in mission. The goal isn't just to run a school. The goal is to build strong, self-sufficient family systems that can actually weather future storms.
And this isn't just a nice idea or some hopeful theory. The whole model is grounded in real, measurable outcomes. They track everything from academic improvement in the child to reductions in household violence and actual growth in the family's income. It's all connected. So, the big takeaway here is clear, and it's just so powerful. To solve a problem as complex and as devastating as learning poverty, maybe, just maybe, we've been looking in the wrong place all along. Maybe we need to look beyond the classroom and start, first and foremost, with the home.